So I got to do this. I got to do this big clap. That's going to be my thing now to make sure that I can actually line up the audio.
Okay.
Yeah. But everybody, thank you for joining me for episode number 7 of the Just Ask podcast. Really happy and excited to have Clifford Myers chatting with me, comedian and lover of pineapple on pizza. Cliff, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. Definitely a lover, and I would say an advocate for pineapple on pizza.
An advocate. Well, you've got no work to do on me. I also love pineapple on pizza. So,
you know what? I actually I'm really, I think what I enjoy most about the pineapple on pizza argument is that people are so heated over something that doesn't matter at all.
That's true.
People are passionately for it or passionately against it, and it's the only online argument that I will fully engage in. I won't ever engage in any online argument. If someone's got a problem, I'm like, hey, we can meet in person. But you're talking about pineapple on pizza, I'm like, let's go.
I'm there.
Mortal Kombat. Because I think we should just fight about fun things,
Yeah, I think we should come up with a list of 5 to 10 things that are just fun, that it's okay and totally accepted to just go to town on.
Yeah, well, the next time there's a new blue dress, gold dress. You know how there's always a new thing that pops up? Those are my favorite, because people will just sit there arguing over both because both things are true. You can see it as gold or you can see it as blue. There's science, right? And anytime that comes up, I was hosting the Hamilton Arts Awards last year, and I was wearing this sweater that to me it looked red.
Right.
And so I was just talking about how, hey, I bought this new shirt. It looks really good. It's red. And then someone in the audience said, it's not red, it's orange. And then someone else said, no, that's more peach. And literally at an award show, the entire audience starts debating what color my shirt is. Literally, I lost complete control. I was like, listen, people. I literally halted this award show to argue about my shirt, and it is the best ever, because I'm like, this is the kind of conflict I can get behind.
Right. Now when that happens, in the middle of your performance, how do you take that? It's all got to be in stride, right?
Well, you have a responsibility. So a show like that, if you're doing an award show has way more to it than if you're typically doing a stand-up performance or even emceeing a wedding or something like that, right?
Right.
So because you have to keep everything on time. There are performances that are going to be happening. There are speeches and people ramble on, and you can't have this thing go more than 3 hours. It's just going to be too painful. You know? So you have to be cognizant of time. But as someone who, I'm at the helm of, setting the tone for the entire night, the entire show, there's also a responsibility to make it memorable. I have to be a good, memorable part of this show. I have to, help set that tone. So when something like that comes up, I fully embrace it in the moment because I know it's good for the show overall.
Right. Right. And how much of your show, because I know I've seen you perform many times at the Brantford Comedy Festival. How much of your when you're emceeing, how much of that is improv? Because I absolutely love when you do the the audience interactions, which is exactly what you're talking about right now. Yeah.
And that, and also, we should probably set that expectation for your audience to kind of know what I'm like as a comedian. I am very crowd worky.
Right.
I'm a riff comedian. I go off the fly. I'm in the moment. That's really how I like to do comedy. Not that I don't have jokes, not that I don't have stories. And I have all that kind of stuff that I infuse and pepper in and that kind of thing. But I'm more concerned, everyone's got a reason why they do comedy or what they bring to the table. And for me, I'm always the story of the night. You know, we have a story that was just ours. We were all here for it, and no one else got to have that experience. Only the people that showed up got to have that experience. It's the opposite of the internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I didn't that's a really cool way to look at that.
Well, yeah, because it's one of those things where like over the years, as much as I can respect the, the pure functionality of the internet that we're able to do this podcast, I'm on my phone right now.
Right.
Right. Like, this is like an incredible thing. It's incredibly functional. We have all these tools at our disposal, but also I see the internet as a terribly horrible thing where people say and do vile things and cowardly things. And essentially, it's just not, I don't think it's good for the human spirit. You know what I mean? Like, I think you need to use it as a tool, don't use it as a lifestyle. And so I greatly oppose that. That's why when you see me doing comedy, you see me very focused on the people there. It's valuing the people in the room. It's kind of going back to the old school, someone popping by your house and you're making tea and hosting people.
Right.
Right. And I was raised with a Portuguese mother, very hospitable, very much like, come in, I'm going to make you feel very comfortable. And like, if you were to really like dissect my comedy, I'm very loud. I'm boisterous. I can make some really risky decisions on stage. I can definitely cross lines and be offensive, but I also do it in a way that makes it feel welcomed and everyone's included. And
Right.
like, and nowadays that's a very big conversation in comedy is inclusiveness, right?
Definitely. And I love that you aim to create that intimate experience, and the fact that you're like because you're able to do that and you have that skill set, no two shows are going to be the same.
Yeah. And that it keeps it fresh for me too, right? And
Right.
it keeps me like continuously challenged because I know I'm going into it really like without a clue. Like I step on stage and like I literally go, okay, let's see what happens. Right.
Right.
And like, so how much of that is improvised? Like, yeah, I would say like 80%.
Right.
Like sometimes there's like certain things that I have like back pocket. Like, something will happen in the moment and I already have a joke for it.
Mm.
And I'll say it as if it was crowd work.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so like I'll do that, right? Like if I'm talking about being Portuguese and someone in the room says they're Portuguese, I'll like yell at them and say, "That's what that effing smell is." I was wondering why this whole room smelled like sacrament oils and Good Friday. like I have those like go-to jokes, and you think I'm just like coming up with it, but I'm not. I've said that a million times to a million Portuguese people that all got mad at me at the end of the show for saying that to them.
You have to. I mean, you obviously love what you do. Do you, when you go to like before you get on stage, do you have any of those like nervous jitters? I've been referring to them as like the pre-game jitters before you get up there.
It's something like anyone that does any kind of performance or public speaking has to tackle. Right? Like they got to tackle this idea of like what nervousness really is. And I've actually like, I've watched a lot of videos and stuff on this when I was like first trying to grapple. Like for me, I try to grapple a lot of like philosophical things from comedy, but also like skill wise, I spend a lot of time on the general craft of talking. Not as much on the craft of comedy, but the craft of even what we're doing right now of just conversation, right?
Right.
And one of those things is being able to reframe how you look at nerves and how you look at nervousness. And so, like, because all the things that happen to you biologically are all the same things that happen when you're excited, right? Blood pressure going up, your heart rate's going up, you're beating faster. So you can stand there and say, I'm nervous about this show, or you can sit there and say, I'm excited about this show. You're feeling the exact same thing either way.
That's amazing, and that's really cool. I've never really like I've never dived into the science of that before. Like, but I've always looked at like when I get nervous before I'm about to do whatever it is, it's because I'm excited and because I care.
Yeah, and I think it's the thought leader Simon Sinek. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, but he's the one that's really explored this idea because he's kind of like a modern social scientist, and he talks a lot about games that humans play, like infinite games and finite games. Like finite games are like, things that have a beginning, middle, and end. It's like, this conversation is a finite game.
Right.
we know it's going to have a beginning, middle, and end. And an infinite game is the game you play to keep on playing. And that's like me in comedy, right? Like I just play to keep on playing. And so like a lot of these kind of like lessons and that you can get from, because, you know, there's another good plus of the internet is we have all this access to free education and free, you know, conversation.
Totally.
And that stuff inspires our spirit, it inspires our creativity, and it influences us. And as long as you're looking at the right things, that really is the key to the internet. You got to look at the right things.
Right. And you have to be able to sift through the good and the bad and what is actually real, because you end up with those people on there that are posting that they're in their private jet again. And you see that. And I mean, literally there's places where you can go and rent, like they'll do like a day thing where you can go and pay money to just hop onto the tarmac, go sit in a plane, take the picture, and then get off.
Yeah. And like it's really sad that people can't see how hollow that is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because like you have an opportunity to like if you believe in expressing yourself, there's a difference between expressing who you are and presenting an idea of what you want people to think you are.
Right.
And that's, you know, I call that presentational living. I'm very much against it. I try to be, you know, in my social interactions, offline and online, as real and honest as possible. And whenever I see, like, you know, like an image being created or something like that, I'll dial it back and check myself. And, like, you know, I'll go on a hiatus from social media just so people can't sit there and make judgments about who I am.
Right.
Which, I'm sorry, one second. I got to drink water, but.
Yep.
I totally do.
It's important to hydrate, people. It's important to hydrate.
Yeah. But that's the thing. This actually immediately conflicts with the job of the comedian, because the job of the comedian is to promote yourself. That's a big part of it.
Right.
You have to promote who you are. You have to market who you are. That's how people make a living at things. So I feel like that's so hard. I think maybe that's why I have so much pushback against the idea of personal branding, because yes, I think our personal lives and our creative lives meld, but I don't think our personal lives should just be one big commercial for the stuff that makes us money.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there's got to be other stuff in there too. There's got to be love and, you know, community and, you know, good stuff.
Yeah. The positive aspects of life.
Yeah. And not the whole like online love or online community. That's just like a temporary flash in the pan. That's not like, that doesn't give you the depth that people seek.
Right.
And people do seek deep connections. And we do like a lot. I don't understand this whole movement of people making these shallow connections. Like, yeah, like renting out the private jets or like yoga on the mountain. I don't get it. I never will, you know, like, because I feel like you're robbing a part of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have the power, man. You have the power to express yourself however you choose. You can explore your creativity however you choose, and you're choosing to craft an image. And it's just like, it's unfortunate because I feel like they're missing out on the opportunity to really see what they're made of.
Right. And I think that really creates almost the expectation that now they have to live up to that. Yes. And maintain that.
And the fact that humans go forward. Like that's how time works. Mm-hmm. So like growth is a natural part of like our, you know, experience while we're here on Earth. So like, you know, in that experience, I just, it's weird to think that you always have to keep up with that image, because it's like, you're going to grow, you're going to change. Right? Like Clifford the comedian in 2009 is not the Clifford the comedian in 2019. I hate that.
Totally.
That comedian was the worst, you know? Like that guy his shirt off all the time and scared the patrons. I can't running around right now. Like, I got a kid.
Right.
Like responsibilities and shit, you know? So for me, I very much think of it like, yeah, we should embrace growing and changing, and like, yeah, don't freeze yourself.
Right. Do you remember the first time that you did you hear that question? Cliff, sorry, something came through on my phone. I thought I had that shut off. Do you remember the first time that you had to that you got up on stage and what that was like?
Yeah, so like is I'll kind of preface that I think there's almost like there was three different first times for me. And I'll
Okay,
explain
cool.
what I mean by that. So the first time I was ever on stage was it was grade 7, and I was playing Belle's father in Beauty and the Beast. You know,
Nice.
my grandpa gave me this gray wool pea coat to wear. They put baby powder in my hair to make me look old. They drew lines on my face with eyeliner. And a weird thing, too, I had a massive crush on Belle.
Perfect storm.
So here I am playing this father and also trying to ask her on a date. That was my first time ever performing, ever being on stage, ever doing anything like that. I just dove in because I was craving this thing that I found really interesting. I love movies, right. I love plays, and I wanted to be a part of it. And so that was my first time doing that. But then my second first time was the first time I performed something original on stage.
Mm.
So there really is a difference. There's a difference between the first time you perform someone else's words, someone else's songs, and the first time you do something that came from you.
Right.
And that was I went to Bible college before I ever went into stand-up comedy. And like when I was at Bible college, I met a guy named Ben Martin, and he was like a really good friend of mine. He does children's ministry now in his life. He's continued that path, and he's a really good musician. And together we were kind of like a Flight of the Conchords type comedy group, but we're way more visceral and in the moment.
Awesome.
So we were called Radioactive Swans and Radioactive Pawns.
That is amazing. I love that.
Right? That's what we were called. And like it's the best name ever. And so our first song ever, we were at the retreat and we were playing 4 chords, okay? G, D, E, minor, C. That's all we're playing. Okay. So we go, I'm wearing a poncho. I got from Bolivia, and I'm wearing an army fatigue hat. Like I look like, Che Guevara is ready to, that life and just powwow by the fire and kumbaya.
Everybody hold hands.
Everyone hold hands. So we're playing the 4 chords, and I go, "Hey Ben, it's about time we sing a song for these people, don't you think?" He's like, "Yeah, but we should count it in like rock stars." You're like, "What? 2? You know how rock stars do, man?" Let's count it in like rock stars. So we started playing. We're like 1, 2, 3, and then we counted to 200. 200, and then after 200 we did the alphabet, and then after the alphabet we started listing off Ninja Turtles, and then we started listing off, and we just listed things. The song went on for 8 minutes.
Wow.
Everyone said that was hilarious, but that was too long. So our second performance, we did a part 2 to that song that was 25 minutes long.
Oh, perfect. Well, go big or go home, right?
Dude, and in that song, we ended up, there was a part of it where we broke into Semi-Charmed Kind of Life for no reason.
Nice.
Like, we had all these different lists, and then we did this thing where like I was playing the chords, and Ben was telling the story of he met this girl at the Shoppers, and she just, the most beautiful woman he's ever seen, and he knew that he had to get to Becky. And then, but Becky turned him down, wouldn't give him a date. And he starts getting so mad. He picks up these flowers, like, she loves me now. He starts freaking out, and he's picking these flowers. And then he starts, we're sitting on a couch on stage in this chapel. And he takes all these props that we had behind the stage and starts breaking them. He breaks a hula hoop. He empties all the beads out of it. He's like, "This is the way you emptied my heart, Becky. You emptied my soul." And then he takes out our big thing after a whole bunch, like, you smashing some plates and like all this kind of stuff. And then we found a fully formed cello in a dumpster with a crack in the back.
Wow.
So he pulls out the cello and he's holding it over his head. He's like, "You know what, Becky? I'm done with you, Becky." And I'm like, "Becky, not the cello. What do you think about the cello?" And he's smashes the cello over the couch arm, right? He just like smashes it, and half the school is music students. Happy that we just smashed a cello. And that was really my first deep dive into original performance, right?
Wow.
Was this experience I had with Ben, but also you got to recognize my first experience in original performance, I was not alone. So that brings me to my third, which was the first time I did stand-up, right?
Right.
This time I'm doing original material that came from me. I remember how nervous I was about doing this. It took me 2 years to get the nerves to just go up and do a mic. And I was like, I would be naked practicing my jokes because I wanted to feel as comfortable as humanly possible when I would go on stage. So I went on stage at a Yuck Yucks in Hamilton. It was on the mountain. And I actually did really well my first show. I was very comfortable. It made sense. And when I got off, my wife, who was just my girlfriend at the time, Lindsay said, yep, this is it. This is what you were meant for.
Wow. What was that feeling like?
To have that kind of validation that I was feeling already, I felt it as soon as I left the stage.
Right.
As soon as I left the stage, I knew. I was like, oh, yeah, this is my next thing. This is the thing that's going to, it opened my eyes, you know?
Right.
And then to get that validation from someone I love, because, you know, she knows me just as much as I know myself. And, you know, that she saw it. And like, I think what a lot of us crave is for people to see the good things in us, to see what we bring to the table. And I think what hurts us the most is when people don't see our value and don't see what we bring to the table. So, you know, that's incredibly validating, incredibly. And we went to a porch afterwards at this place I was living in Lancaster, and we were smoking these Captain Blacks. And funny enough, Ben was actually there that night. He came to support me.
Oh, nice.
He came to support me, watch my first show. I didn't think about how like that actually all tied in there. That's nice.
Nice heartfelt moment.
Yeah, that felt good
for me. Cliff, what do you compare the balancing act of performing on stage? I mean, especially for you, like you said, like 80% is improv. What's that like for you going up and kind of reading the room?
Well, I have a ritual that I do before the show.
Okay.
That kind of ties into this. And so, like, before every single show, and you probably actually seen me do this and just not realize what was happening.
Okay.
I stand in the corner and I stare at everyone.
I have seen that.
I look at every single audience member. I look at who's here. I look for potential problems. I look for who's going to be the most approachable, who's going to be the most interesting. You'll see oftentimes, like at the Brantford Comedy Festival, I avoid sponsor tables. Right. Because I don't want to talk to sponsors because I've already talked to them over the years. And I want to give new people a new chance to be a part of this experience. So you'll actually see me get kind of annoyed when certain people will talk from sponsor tables, because I'd be like, I don't want to put the attention on you right now. I want to put the attention on someone else.
Right.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll even just say that. Like, I'll be like, you know, like if Josh is talking too much, the big afro dude, I'd be like, Josh, shut up.
give stage time for others, right?
Yeah, because like, you know, one of the things that I do that's a little different than other comedians is I consider myself the star of the show that makes you the star of the show.
Right.
Like, I stand out, but you also stand out.
Right. You kind of bring everybody aboard the ship.
Yeah, and that's cool for me. I don't think that's necessarily monetizable. I don't see how I can make a full career on that. But as a lifestyle choice, I wouldn't want to do it any other way.
Right. Well, it's got to be very fulfilling to be able to create those little opportunities for audience members to be able to have that memory that's going to last with them for a long time.
Well, absolutely. And like for me too, like what I'm, you know, if you're talking about the balancing act, what I'm really balancing are my expectations. You know, that's really what I'm balancing. You know, that was the young man's game. Was the false expectations. You aim too high, you look too far. I've now come into like a mantra that I follow in my life, which is dream in miles, work in millimeters, or move in millimeters.
I
Right?
love that.
Yeah, because it's like, hey, I think you should dream as high as you possibly can, but you have to do the work. You have to move 1 millimeter at a time. That's how it works. Right?
Amazing. And for anybody that might be listening to this or watching this, do you have any tips for somebody to kind of like tackle those first couple millimeters if say they wanted to get into stand up or just even go and just be more comfortable public speaking or getting their message out?
Yeah, you have to throw yourself into the fire. So you have to go up and actually do it. And any
Mm-hmm.
advice you're ever going to get from any comedian, they'll say, go and do a mic.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually, I'll tell people, go bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't want to set your expectations high at all. I'm like, go have a horrible set and see if you want to do it again.
Right. And just really, and by saying it that way too, you're giving them permission to go and bomb.
And the thing is I think a lot of people don't want to give themselves permission to fail. Mm-hmm. Or the comedy stage really is the freedom to fail. And I know that conversations change over recent years with people trying to police language and police what you can and cannot joke about. I have my own opinions on that, but I also think that the freedom to fail will always exist. You know, you have to have a bit of courage here.
Definitely.
Which means you're going to stand in front of people and take an L. And you're gonna take more L's than wins. That's just the truth of anything worth pursuing. But learning how to take it on the chin properly, that's the skill that you really want to develop. You want to develop that more than anything. Because Andrew Schultz, he was asked. Andrew Schultz is a comedian in New York who's doing really well for himself right now. And he has a podcast he does with Charlemagne the God called The Brilliant Idiots. And he's been doing this tour called Tales from the Cis. He talks about a lot of social, political issues and that kind of thing.
Okay.
And someone wrote to him on Twitter and said, Andrew, you're killing it. You're killing it right now. It makes me I'm weeping at how good you are. How did you get this good? And Andrew's response was failure, rejection, more failure, more rejection. I became stripped of all ego. I became nothing. From nothing comes everything.
That is, wow.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's on my wall. That's on my wall. You have to really figure out, and this is odd advice because, you're asking people getting into public speaking or comedy, and I guess some other people might say read this book or take this course or do it this way, some practical advice. But I won't give that practical advice. What I would give is immediately start developing your relationship with rejection and failure. Immediately. And the sooner you do it and the sooner you're okay with it, the more you're going to see yourself grow.
Right. And the more excited you'll be to be able to get out there and really perform your craft.
And the thing is, if you only want to do comedy when it's good, you don't want to do comedy. You just want people to make you feel good.
Right. You just want to get that reaction from the crowd.
Yeah. You just want that dopamine hit. And if that's what you want, go watch a cat video. You just want that dopamine hit. Just go do it that way, right? Don't treat it like a drug. Treat it like a craft. Treat it like what it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, what are you excited about, Cliff?
Excited comedy wise or life wise?
Yeah, any of it.
So I just moved. I was living in the Hamilton area for 10 years, and I just moved east of Toronto to a town called Cobourg, which is a little beach town. And a lot of when you hear me talk about stand-up comedy, I talk a lot about my values. I talk a lot about my philosophies, because those are the things that matter most to me, and those are the things I shape my life around.
Right.
So when people are, looking at what they want to do in comedy, what their goals are, I don't really have the same goals as some of my peers. I'm not aiming to try to get on Conan. I'm not trying to get on Just for Laughs. The things I want is to be able to do comedy in the way I want to do it and have the freedom to do it as often as possible.
Mm,
So part of that was I was focusing on my family first. So I was like, you know what? Where do I want to raise my family? I don't want to raise them in a big city like Hamilton. I think there's too much aggression in bigger cities. And so I was like, let's go to a small little beach town. We're 3 minutes from the beach. The
that's
commute.
wonderful.
There's no such thing as rush hour. It's like, like as far as like what I want from my life, this is exciting. I get to see my kid grow up fostered by a community that actually talks to each other.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And so like, when I look at my goals, if I thought about what my biggest goal, what I'd be most excited for in comedy, first of all, is like, I have this new townhouse that we're renting and I have a basement. I'm going to get to have my own studio. I'm going to get to work the way I want to. And that's something I've been working towards for the past 4 years.
Amazing, Cliff. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. It seems weird to just work for an extra bedroom and a space, but like some of us can't afford it. Some of us just weren't given the same bank account as others,
Right.
So, like, you have to be, this is why, going back to being realistic about your expectations. Some people would feel bummed by that, being like,
Right.
oh, I can't live in Toronto where I could grind every night and I'm not going to get noticed and all this stuff. And then it's like, well, if you curb your expectations, it's not about getting noticed. It's about providing something of value.
Right.
Providing something that people walk away with. And that the double-edged sword, it will get you noticed by the right people. Right?
You're going to end up in the right space.
Yes. Yeah. You'll end up really where you're meant to be if you're really chasing your values. You fully will. And so for me, like, I'm so excited to see what I'm going to be building in this town, in this area, and what this next chapter looks like, because I don't know what kind of online content I'm going to create. I just know I want to be able to be there. I want to show up. But just like stand-up comedy, I don't know what the night's going to look like.
Amazing. Do you have any upcoming shows that people could check you out, or where can people find you to get more of you?
I would encourage people to, if you to make a little bit of effort and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I actually really appreciate that, because I know you have to log on and subscribe, but for me, that's a channel that I really feel like I'm going to be able to access people more readily. With the internet, a lot of Canadian comedians cannot make it in Canada. And that's just the way it is, because we have such a small ceiling. And comedy, unlike other jobs, is not an actual career. It's a tournament. And for those that make a career out of comedy, they've done certain things to win the tournament. Because there's only so many spots that Comedy Central can only do so many sketch shows. Right? JFL can only book so many comedians. So in that regard, it becomes a tournament, and it's very, I feel like that can do a lot of damage to your self-esteem and, in your self-image, like how you perceive yourself. So that's why I would love, if people join me on this YouTube journey, because, hey, I tell Canadian comedians, you don't have to go to America. America's on the internet.
Definitely.
We have tools at our disposal to be able to express ourselves in a different way. It's the same thing. And I would tell any young comedian, you're starting in one of the greatest times to be alive, because you have all the tools at your disposal. It's how you get to use them. So I would suggest building an audience that's there for you, and then booking shows according to that.
Amazing. Yeah.
Makes more sense, on a business level too. It makes more sense to do it that way, but do it honestly, do it sincerely, and be a genuine person, when you're doing this. So the only show I have, I do got some shows upcoming. I'm going to be in Port Hope on April 9th. So I've started in this new area. There's a promoter who is the only guy running comedy shows in all of the East Central District. And I connected with him. I let him know who I was. He got some good vouches about me. He's like, hey, do you want to tack on this an extra show on my comedy festival I'm doing? I was like, sure, man. So I'm going to run a little open mic at the Ganny on April 9th. And then that weekend, like the 11th or whatever,
Yeah.
hello?
Yep, I'm here.
That weekend, I'm going to be at Kingston Absolute. And then the last weekend in May, I'll be at the Absolute Comedy in Ottawa.
Amazing.
Yeah, some pretty cool stuff.
Awesome, Cliff. Well, I think, I absolutely love chatting with you. Just your experience and what you speak to on your values is just amazing, and it's incredible, and it's really cool to hear you talking about your journey.
Yeah,
And we'll definitely tag the link to your YouTube page in the link below so that people can go and do that.
definitely subscribe, people. Come
Subscribe,
on, help a brother out.
subscribe, and I look forward to seeing shows out of your new studio. This is Just Ask episode number 7, the Just Ask podcast. Thank you so much, Cliff. Really appreciate you taking the time.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Ben.
Awesome. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.